thoroughly deserving. Once again, Harry Kane was excellent. Kulusevski on the goal score sheet as well, Doherty and Son, the 4 different goal scorers. We've been talking about Spurs top 4, but I think we've got to talk about first the Bielsa story coming out of England, that by mutual consent, they've agreed for him to step down as coach Leeds United. This is all happening as we're going to air, Jan. Is it inevitable?
I think it's inevitable because, I mean, there is always this rule in football that is also always a team that is too good to go down. I mean, that could happen to Leeds this year because everybody says Bielsa is doing this, Bielsa is doing that. I mean, how he defend with that team, I mean, I don't get it. I mean, this is 1954 Germany winning in Bern. I mean, the defense of it. So it feels so old-fashioned, and at the same time, every coach and every nerdy professor of football says that Bielsa is the most brilliant coach ever. But the hard thing about football is that you all live by results, and if you lose 4 or 5 goals in every game, there is something wrong, even with the coach. He will be remembered as he's a great coach, done a fantastic job at Leeds. He's a cult person for Leeds. But to save them now, they need someone in to just save this season for them. Although, if not, they will go down to the Championship.
Yeah, it's a massive task, though, isn't it, Don?
Well, it is. I mean, what a ride it's been under Bielsa. And I've been a Bielsa fan. I've been a Leeds fan because they've been great to watch. I take you back to Newcastle United when Steve Bruce was the manager and John Joe Shelby had a shot against Man City at St James's Park from the kickoff and retreated for 90 minutes. Brighton under Chrissy Houghton were the same. They were scared of the big boys. David Wagner's Huddersfield, they were scared stiff of the big boys. They didn't really have a go. At least Leeds have sort of had a go against the big teams and made it entertaining. It's the last couple of months, Dan, which has done them, where they're leaking 5s, 6s, 7s. That can't happen. And then all of a sudden, the cameras today were panning on the hierarchy and the owners of the club. And you just had a sneaky feeling that they're going to have the conversation because they are drifting. They're like Everton. They're like 1 or 2 clubs. Like Brentford's another one that's getting ever so close when the teams at the bottom, like Newcastle, like Burnley, are actually in decent form. So the Leeds hierarchy now are just starting to panic.
And apparently, Jan, American Jesse Marsch is the favourite to take over from Bielsa. This seems like a massive step.
Yeah, but it's still interesting because if they let him go now, I mean, in Germany they call it Feuerwehrmann, a fire guy that have to come in and just save the season. Yeah, Jesse Marsch could be the one. I'm a fan of Jesse Marsch. He failed in Leipzig and he was maybe a bit too impatient. There were some private things going on with illness in his family and everything. But, well, Jesse Marsch, he doesn't have a month's time to understand English football. He has to be there straight away. Having said that, going for one of the usual suspects could also take it down. So it's a big call for Leeds United because now it's all about saving the season for them, let them stay in the big paradise called Premiership. And Jesse Marsch, with his kind of we stand together, we're marching together and everything, maybe he will be the right fit. And I guess they've done their homework and they've talked to him. And he's the last couple of weeks following Leeds United because there is no time for him. There is no preschool. He's going right to the exam, and being an American, he's starting a bit behind as well, as we know when Bob Bradley came to English football.
What do you think, Don?
I think Jesse Marsch would be a risk now. I think in the summer, I think it would be a very smart and a good appointment. But now when you're struggling and you're on a run, and a horrendous run, that would take a little bit of time, I think, for Jesse Marsch to get used to the Leeds players, their style, the Leeds players getting used to him, adapting to how quick and how different the Premier League is. I think they might have to go safe. It might have to be a Big Sam. I know Leeds fans have been quite vocal on social media and they would actually rather Bielsa than someone like Big Sam Allardyce coming in, but he might be the safe option. You know, even if you've got to do what Everton done a few years back, you give them a hefty payoff if you stay in the division because that's the promised land. That's where Leeds need to be. If they're going to kick on, they've got people like Junior Firpo at the football club. You know, Dan James, Rafinha, Rodrigo. You know, they've got players who Bielsa's brought in who, in fairness, they would never have attracted without Bielsa. So it's a massive appointment and and a big one for Leeds.
Don, just explain to us how difficult it is, though, for the players who are used to playing under Bielsa in his unique ways to make that switch to a Big Sam coming in and playing completely different, just flipping the style of football on its head. How tricky is that from players' perspective, given that they're running out of matches?
Well, I'm going to hate myself for saying this, Dan, because I am a Bielsa fan. But this man-for-man marking when you haven't got the ball, it will never work for a multitude of reasons. I could go on for hours and hours on the man-to-man marking side of the game, and it can't be done. So what the players will do, they'll actually feel, I don't know if relieved's the right word. I don't know if they'll feel relieved, but it's been pretty intense. And I think a new voice, a new style, a more defensive-minded approach where they can, if Big Sam, say, for instance, is the man that's going to come in, he's going to make them super organised. He's going to have details for full-backs and centre-backs and relationships for midfield players. There'll be a solid base to try and work on. Whereas I think at the moment when you watch Leeds, they're just all over the place, and it's a sad watch.
But having said that, Dan, Big Sam, yes, he's been the answer to so many questions in English football the last years, but maybe this new generation, they won't have his leadership either, Don. So, I mean, that could be a risk as well.
They would, Jan.
Yeah,
they would. They would.
No. I'm not sure. You're too old to say that.
Just stay in the league.
No. Don, you're too old. The new generation, they don't want to listen to this bully shouting people. I'm just saying... you can say it's rubbish, but you can say that there was English or British players saying it was a risk to take Thomas Tuchel as well. So, I mean, sometimes you British are not the best one to do that analyze.
It's completely
just
different.
Get a guy. No, it's not totally different at all. Because there's on one side you have a tactician coming in, and then you have Big Sam coming in. Oh, he is the answer. Then maybe that is the wrong question. Because the young generation, they won't have it. And Dan's question to go from Bielsa just on the pitch is one, but also outside the pitch, maybe that is not the answer. That is risky as well, and Don, and you know that because you're bright enough to understand that.
I am bright enough to understand it, Jan. But let me tell you now, if you offered the Leeds players a chance to be safe under Big Sam, and you're in the Premier League next season, they will take it all day long.
Dan, we're not discussing that. That we're discussing some games up down the road. I'm just saying we're talking about the matter of risk. So if you're taking a Jesse Marsch, and I try to explain that, and I'm a fan of Jesse Marsch, I just say there is a part of his risk. Then you come with Big Sam, and you just swap over some hurdles and say, if the Leeds players get asked, if you say to the Leeds players, hey, listen, do you want Big Sam to stay in the Premier League or do you want Jesse Marsch to go down? Yeah, of course, Don, they would say Big Sam. So that is not a part of the discussion. I'm just saying the risk in the management now sitting together over a red wine from Italy, discussing which managers coming in, they have to take plus and minus with both kind of managers. That was my point.
But where's the risk very quickly in appointing Big Sam that's never, ever, ever been relegated?
Because it's a big risk that he can get to a new generation of players. And that's what you have to discuss, because you are going from Bielsa, who doing all kind of Albert Einstein kind of tactic, going to Big Sam that you are selling in, that he will save everything. And I'm not just saying that is the analyzing they're doing in management, not like you and me sitting in a cellar and I'm sitting in a hotel room in London. That is the thing they have to do.
Go on, Jack.
I'll be honest. I kind of feel Big Sam. The phrase Big Sam has become an adjective more so than talking about the person. In that, when you want a manager who will set up shop and get you defensively, you just automatically say you want Big Sam without really. I'm not convinced that Big Sam is the right person for today's football. I'm with Jan on that. I really am not. I think the game has now gone beyond that. But to that point, you want somebody to come and organize things to get you defensive. Here's the big risk for me with that. We are talking about a Leeds team that's been managed by Bielsa for the last 3.5 seasons. Being defensive is not in their DNA. It's not what got them out of the Championship. It's not what kept them in the Premier League last year. And now all of a sudden, that ethos of we're going to outscore the opposition is not working. In your last 4 games, you've conceded 17 goals and you've scored twice against Manchester United in a 4-2 defeat. You failed to score in 3 of those. So now everything that you've stood for 3.5 seasons has come apart at the seams. And you need somebody to put it back together and somehow make you into a defensive, tough-to-beat team. I think it's thankless. It's a hiding to nothing, whether it's Jesse Marsch or anybody else. I'm not sure that anybody is looking forward to doing this. At the same time, you do look at somebody like Roy Hodgson, who's come in and at least made Wolves more of an outfit. But Roy Hodgson has experience in this league. He's fought relegation battles with Crystal Palace. Who comes in to Leeds to make that bigger shift? Who knows this league? I'm not sure there's a name out there. And again, for me, Big Sam, much as it's a name, is an adjective more so than an option.
Thank you very much for watching ESPN FC on YouTube. For more highlights, analysis and exclusive content, be sure to subscribe.